There has been another implosion within the failing homeless industrial complex. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. And a big thank you to Future 42 for sponsoring our new Friday show, Politics Unpacked. We sure do appreciate it. Okay, we talked on the show last year during the last implosion that there was around the homeless industrial complex about the end of Partnership for Zero. So Partnership for Zero, when this was pitched to the public, this was truly pitched as this is going to solve everything. This is going to be a public-private partnership. Everyone's going to come together. They're going to donate money. And this is going to, what was their promise? It would lead to effectively zero homeless people in downtown Seattle in just the course of a year. I mean, some of the headlines: big givers launch $10 million partnership for zero to dramatically reduce unsheltered homelessness in downtown Seattle. February 17th, 2022. Did that happen? Of course it didn't happen. And we're no better off today in January of 2024 than we were when Partnership for Zero started. So it ended up imploding despite the fact that there were heavy hitters in the private sector. Partnership for Zero had donors from Alaska Airlines, Amazon, the Ballmer Group, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Boeing, Costco, Expedia. I mean, the who's who, Nordstrom, the who's who of businesses with money in Seattle and Washington State bought into this program. So you had King County Regional Homelessness Authority, We Are In, Partnership for Zero was under that umbrella. Well, so when Partnership for Zero imploded last year, and there was all sorts of, accusations of money mismanagement. This was the update. This came out in September of 2023. Because you remember the head of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, Mark Dones, resigned under accusations that the authority was a failure, that it was just spending a bunch of money on salaries, that nothing was getting done. So this was the announcement when Partnership for Zero closed. Since the departure of the Regional Homelessness Authority's first CEO, the agency has been conducting a full assessment of operations. This work includes a review of our governance structure and a close look at our operations and programs, including Partnership for Zero. Initial funding for the pilot program has now expired. In addition, KCRHA and partners recognize that the need for unsheltered services in downtown Seattle and the Chinatown International District is greater than the capacity the Partnership for Zero pilot program had. Blah, blah, blah. So we're winding down Partnership for Zero. So that led everybody to kind of wonder, okay, well, so you had the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, and then you had Partnership for Zero down here, but above that was something called We Are In. So that was sort of the umbrella group that was in charge of Partnership for Zero. Well, now it appears that We Are In has imploded as well, which is not a particular surprise given the fact that Partnership for Zero imploded. Here is the headline from Publicola: We Are In, public-private partnership behind Partnership for Zero fires staff amid calls for an investigation. And so here you have, and I think one of the fundamental issues here is you staffed some of these entities with people based on their lived experience, which in the concept isn't so bad. Where if we want to end homelessness and help people who are homeless, maybe it would help to have some people who have been there. But when you make that such a priority and you look at lived experience hiring, not based on experience, not based on their ability to actually run an entity with millions of dollars coming in, and that is your first and foremost goal when you look to hire someone, it's really not a surprise that it would crumble and that all the money would be wasted. I mean, when Partnership for Zero folded, by the time that it happened, again, a program that promised to effectively end homelessness in downtown Seattle, they spent all that money from all those big corporate donors. They got just 230 people into housing. Okay? So now We Are In folds. More from Publicola. We Are In's apparent implosion, which has not been previously reported, leaves the future of We Are In, as well as the role of philanthropic donors like the Rakes and Gates Foundations, in doubt. If We Are In collapses, it will have ramifications beyond the organization itself. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, who has been less than enthusiastic about the King County Regional Homelessness Authority's past requests for large budget increases, had said solving homelessness must include successful public-private partnerships between private donors and local governments. If those private donors are throwing up their hands on homelessness, it could bode poorly for the future of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. But that last line, if those private donors are throwing up their hands on homelessness, it could bode poorly for the future of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. It frames it as if these private donors are giving up on something that's working, or are giving up on solving homelessness altogether. No, these are businesses, and you don't become a successful business when you throw money at things that are failing. That's the difference between the government and the private sector. There is only so much waste that the private sector is willing to tolerate. There's a lot of waste the government, obviously, is willing to tolerate when it comes to spending on homelessness. Every year, the homeless crisis gets worse and the government spends more money. We talked about Governor Inslee's right-of-way initiative, where he's clearing encampments out from along state highways that costs $1 million almost per person to get them out of homelessness. Do you think that kind of ROI would ever be tolerated in the private sector? No. And they shouldn't have to tolerate it. There is no reason that some of these successful Northwest companies who initially jumped onto this have to keep donating millions of dollars only for it to be squandered by government bureaucrats and people with lived experience who have no experience running an entity like that. And so the money doesn't go to actually help people. So what, Partnership for Zero, We Are In, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, what they're starting to realize is that when you don't deliver on what you promise, people who are good stewards of their own money are not going to invest in you because they're not getting any outcome for that investment. So I'll go back to that line on Public Cola. If those private donors are throwing up their hands on homelessness, it could bode poorly for the future of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. They're not throwing up their hands on solving homelessness. They're throwing up their hands on dumping money into a solution that isn't working. And that's what the government ought to do as well. That segment was brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter.